Hello everybody, I'm Matt and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be talking about Superman issue 30 by Joshua Williamson, Dan Mora and Alejandro Sanchez. The Legion of Darkseid continues this issue as Joshua Williamson regales us with the story of Saturn Girl, whose race battled the Brawl. Saturn Girl joined the fight when she was old enough, but was captured and imprisoned by the Brawl because of her abilities, not because she heard voices, but because of what else spoke to her, something that told her the secrets of everything. That voice ended up being Darkseid, who showed her what is going to come for her universe, showing her the absolute Superman and how much of a threat he will be to Darkseid. What a way to kick off the issue, finally getting some insight into the absolute universe and how Darkseid manipulated the Legion into doing his bidding. It feels like a long time coming. Imra becomes inspired by the voice and breaks out of jail, having her jailers kill each other with a thought. As she frees herself, she also frees Cosmic Man, freeing him to do as she is spurred on by the voices to do, which is to gather other people like her and form a legion. In the present, Superboy Prime captures Superman for the Legion. Imra tells Clark that the great collision is upon them and his reality will fall. Prime thinks that this is the coolest version of the Legion ever, headbutting Superman when he tries to talk them down. Prime knows all he ever wanted was a team up with Superman and he couldn't even give him that, so he is getting what he deserves. Lightning Lad doesn't want to trust Prime, wanting to kill him along with Superman, but before Prime and Garth can rip each other's arms off, Imra stops them, wanting Garth to go and get Booster Gold. It's so obvious that Prime is playing along with the Legion here. He's going to end up helping Superman in the end, but I do like he's being very smart about it, using his own messed up sadistic streak to cloud his mind from Imra's probing, using it as proof that he is against Superman. Superman grabs Prime, telling Booster to run, but Colossal Boy picks up Superman, slamming him into the ground and allowing the other Legion members to pin him down with their energy blasts. Prime meanwhile learns of the plan from Imra as Booster Gold has absorbed chronal energy, which they've been using to travel through time and track down anyone who is a threat to Darkseid. But along with the chronal energy, Booster Gold was also imbued with Omega energy, and as long as he has that power, Darkseid cannot be whole. So they plan on sacrificing Booster Gold in order to release that Omega energy and Darkseid will be reborn. Okay, so that's a pretty darn simple plot point, one that actually puts a lot of focus back on Booster for a change, being that while they kept saying that he was a big part of this storyline, he obviously hadn't appeared really until this story picked up his thread there, and I like that they are refocusing it now as like, oh no, he is very important, we kind of got to like keep him alive here. I also like how it ties into the other stuff we've seen throughout Justice League Unlimited and even Challenges of the Unknown. The different parts of Darkseid out there in the universe, you know, Grodd had a part, the Challengers all had a part that was connected to Darkseid in some way, and since they've all gone and left these heroes and villains, they've obviously gone back to Darkseid, which have made him whole, but with Booster being the last one left, and once he is dealt with, Darkseid will be allowed to return. Prime says that he loves an evil monologue, and Imra reveals that the legions of Superman's world worshipped the past, while they worship the end, which is why they will win. I have to wonder if there is some type of meta commentary going on here with what Imra is saying with the Legion being nostalgic, kind of wanting those member berries, while the new edgy Legion is all about the future and letting the past die. There's echoes of that also in Superboy Prime, who can't get over the past. You know, he holds on to things, because he's, the embodiment of, that raging nerd fanboy who, likes something back in the day, and because that thing has now changed, he throws a tantrum because he doesn't have that thing again. And I think there's like some sort of connection there between these two things. I don't think it's going to go any further than what's here on the page now, but it's an interesting idea to play with. While Superman goes through some truly horrible shit, Lex Luthor is chilling out in an icy monastery that we saw him enter just a few issues ago. His peaceful meditation is interrupted by Val Amor, the Karate Kid, who screams that he does this for Darkseid. A monk from the monastery overhears the fight between the two, going to check it out, but he finds Val dead, his neck snapped, as Lex has decided his time at the monastery has come to an end. Honestly, I'm really surprised that we are going back to the Lex story so damn soon. I guess it makes sense since he is in DCKO and it is now confirmed it's going to be this present day version of Lex, but it would have been nice to have, between this issue and when he entered the monastery, just sort of like a quick checkup on what he's been up to. It could have just been like, even for a gag, he's just, meditating or something, just kind of checking in on him and seeing where he's at character-wise. I also do have a feeling that this is probably going to end up with him breaking bad again and becoming a villain. Like, he views all of this as Superman's fault and just ends up fighting him. Back in the 31st century, Booster is hooked up to one of the giant towers the Legion have built to siphon the Omega energy from him. Imra plans on draining Booster's blood and using it to fuel the machine, which will break the barriers between space and time, carving a path wide open for Darkseid. Element Lad opens a portal for the team to leave through as Superman tries again to get through to Imra, knowing that his best friend would never do something like this, but nothing can convince her that Darkseid isn't everything. Prime continues to act the villain, citing how he wishes he could have seen them kill the other legions, so Imra decides to give him a chance to prove himself, wanting him to be the one to kill Booster Gold. Prime thinks that Dan Jurgens is going to be real pissed over this as Superman screams for him to stop, but Prime wants him to remember what Time Trapper told him, that he's there to do what Superman never could. So along with some really fun fourth wall breaks here and talking about Dan Jurgens, Williamson gets really creative with the Prime twist here, where he's obviously helping Superman, but the line about him doing what Superman couldn't isn't about him going that extra length and actually killing. It's about him being able to convince the villains that he too is a villain, something that Superman is capable of doing. That's actually really quite fun. I like that it wasn't the usual, it's because Superboy Prime is willing to kill, like he could end the threat. It's not that at all. It's something a little bit more Superman related, he's putting on the act of pretending to be a villain. Superman, acts as, Clark Kent or as Superman. And I like that there's that sort of through line there where he's doing a Superman thing. This was so much cooler than what I thought the twist would be, which would be he was just going to kill them. Superboy Prime takes the villains by surprise, blasting them with his heat vision, revealing Superman can't hide his thoughts from Imra, since he's always thinking of doing the right thing. But he, on the other hand, really does hate the Legion, and he can blast his nerd rage all day long. Prime tosses Saturn Girl into the sky as he puts down Lightning Lad, calling for Superman to help out. Superman rips free from his restraints, knowing that Prime had them all convinced a little too well. Superman and Superboy Prime team up to defeat the remaining legions, tossing Booster through the portal Element Lad made. Prime tells Superman to go after him, otherwise he'll get lost in the time stream. Before leaving though, Superman tosses Prime his Legion flight ring, knowing that while he hasn't earned it yet, he will, wanting to finish up the Legion members and then they'll go home together. This has been a long time coming, and it's so satisfying seeing Prime getting to be the hero and getting to be the good guy and getting a team up with Superman. It respects what Jeff Johns did back during Death Metal in his tie-in, where he gave him the happy ending, quote unquote. It builds off of that. He had that happy ending, but he was still missing that one thing, which was the team up with Superman, and he finally got that. Prime tells Superman that he's been a fan of him his whole life, and no matter what anyone says, Superman is the coolest superhero ever. Something I have to agree with. His Time Trapper showed him what could happen next, and for Superman to save the future and his Legion, he needs to save the past, and the only way he's going to defeat Darkseid is if he doesn't hold back. Prime punches Superman in the face, shattering the timeline again around the hero and sending him careening through the timeline. Superboy Prime puts on the Legion flight ring, freeing the good Legion that was captured last issue and telling them that he's getting his Superman moment, and the Legion team up as well. The group don't think that they are the Legion and they are all going to die as Darkseid's forces are too powerful, but Superboy Prime tells them that the Legion changes all the time, and sometimes it's a big team, sometimes it's a small team, but what makes them all the same is they are all influenced by Superman doing what is right, and he's about to do what is right. Superboy Prime screams the Legion motto as he leads them into oblivion, becoming the hero he always knew he could be. So this ending is a little ambiguous if Prime and the other heroes die, and it's probably for a good reason, leave it open for him to come back in the far future at some point, but I like to think they went out in a blaze of glory, with Prime finally getting that team up with the Legion he always dreamed of. He finally got to be Superman for them and just be the hero he knew he could be. It's a lovely little send-off for the character. Back at the Watchtower, Time Trapper witnesses the various events that have been transpiring around him lately, having survived the surgery Metamorpho performed on him at the behest of Niles Calder. Flash demands that he tell them why he came to the Watchtower, and Trapper reveals that he came to deliver a message, but someone else is about to deliver it as Superman contacts the Watchtower, having returned to their timeline with Booster Gold, and he's calling all available members of the Justice League to the Watchtower immediately, as Darkseid is coming. So we finally reached the end of the beginning and into the preludes for the DCKO event, and I'm really excited. This event has all been built up around Superman. It's kind of positioning him as like the main character, and I think that is the point. I've heard from Scott Snyder that is kind of the point of DCKO, whereas the last two events that he was kind of running and organized, the first one was related to Batman, then you had Death Metal, which was more of a Wonder Woman storyline, and now you've got the Superman one. So thanks to the legwork that Williamson has done here, Scott Snyder is all positioned for DCKO starting next month. Superman issue 30 rounded out the building up to the upcoming DCKO event and Darkseid's inevitable return. Williamson did a good job laying it all out there, presenting the plot in an easy to digest way while also having fun with it and getting some cool Legion on Superman action. The closure of Superboy Prime felt a long time coming, and I love he never actually reverted to being a villain, and he finally got to become the hero he wanted to be and learn what the Legion really means. I'm excited for DCKO next month and what Williamson, Scott Snyder and other writers have in store for Superman during the event. I'm going to give this issue a 9 out of 10.